Hello and welcome back to the Nothing to Something podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Aaron Burns, ex-footballer, businessman, life insurance expert, and all-round serial achiever. In this episode, you can expect to hear about how life struggles can work to your advantage, adjusting to life after football, just why life insurance is so important, how you can get your piece of the pie and start a business on your own terms, plus so much more. Please, before we get started, like, share, subscribe, and I'll see you on the other side. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me, Mark. I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, thank you.
No, really appreciate you coming on, mate. There are some intriguing bits, some intriguing questions in here that I'm dying to ask. I've kind of known you for a while, we kind of know each other on a casual basis. I can see you're a very assertive sort of person, got a bit of a story to tell, so really intrigued as to see what comes out the back of this one.
Here we are, mate. Let's go.
Let's go. So first and foremost, do you want to just introduce yourself and let the listeners know who you are and what it is that you do?
Yeah. So my name's Aaron Burns. I'm from Manchester, in England, and yeah, we own a life insurance company called Bespoke Health. At the moment, one of the UK's top brokers in the UK, working with a number of different providers that you will obviously know and hear of, some of the more popular ones. And basically, what we do is we have a passion for protecting families. That's what we look to do on a day-to-day basis. So we speak to people and put them in a better position than they were initially in terms of life insurance, critical illness, income protection. And at the moment, we're having a big recruitment drive where we're giving people opportunities to be protection specialists through our company, and we're really trying to grow and expand. Head office is Middlesbrough, and we've got a branch in Newcastle, but we run the Manchester division.
Love that. Absolutely love that. So we've got different aspects there. What stands out first and foremost is the passion for supporting families and putting them in a better position. But then also on the flip side of that, you're putting people on to be able to succeed in business, so to speak. So yeah, we've got different facets that we'll get into there in a little bit. Just before we get into the business side of what you're doing current day, do you want to just run a little bit through sort of background? So talk us through your childhood upbringing, previous jobs.
Yeah, if you'd have asked me when I was a kid, or even 10 years ago, I definitely didn't think I'd be sat here in protection with with one of the biggest life insurance brokers in the country. That wasn't on my agenda. So a little bit about me. Born in the late 80s, 1987 to be precise. Grew up in Moss Side, which is an inner city area in Manchester, and I was born and fortunate enough to be born to a single mother. My mum had me at 16, didn't finish her GCSEs, so when people say that the obstacles were stacked against us, they pretty much were. I'm 35 now. I've been 16. Couldn't imagine having a kid in Moss Side at 16. So, all credit to my mum. We did what we needed to do. I went to school, and at around about the age of 7 or 8, I moved out of the area. I moved to an area called Wivenshaw, which is probably known as the biggest council estate in Europe. And that's where we grew up, and that's where I started to really find myself and find the passions. I was fortunate enough to integrate into a new school and got into football, and I hadn't really played much sport prior to that, just because of the area and the locality that we lived in. It wasn't really the thing that kids were doing at that time, and found out that I had a little bit of a talent or a passion for football and for sport. That passion and talent quickly took me sort of like through the ranks. So I joined Man United as an academy player at age 9. and developed and honed my skills with some of the best footballers in the country and ultimately in Europe in the later stages of my time at Man United. I stayed there till I was 21. Signed a professional agreement with them, but unfortunately it didn't work out just because of the standard and the level. Um, and then from that point on, it was that realization. Now, what do I do? Do I continue trying to do this football thing, which I did, or do I move in a different direction? We'll probably come on to that at a later point, but
Yep.
um, yeah, I continued playing football on a full time basis for a couple of years, and then I had my eldest son, and I almost had a decision to make, and that decision was, do I continue trying to make a living out of football at a level that I'm not really happy with. That's going to leave me at probably where I am now at 35, trying to sort of like integrate into the working world, because I'm not going to have earned enough money to retire, or do I start to look at my job prospects, which is what I did. I got a job, just a customer service job. I say that I got a job, and through my cousin, almost through a little bit of networking, he got me in, and I just started to work in the telecoms industry. Again, it's been a little bit of a theme, but I quickly rose through the ranks there, and after 6 months was promoted to supervisor of a technical support team. So we looked after broadband and phone lines and ISDN systems and stuff
Hmm.
like that. A position which I held for about 3.5 years, and I moved to another telecoms company in Alderley Edge, which is Cheshire, as a sort of like a senior account manager. And then in around about, it's probably about 2015, I got the opportunity to start working as a business development manager in apprenticeships, which was something that I was very passionate about. I'd done an apprenticeship at my first customer service role, and obviously being a footballer full time when you leave school, it's a scholarship, it's an apprenticeship, it's a gateway into a career. So I pursued that. I started to really hone in on my passions, which are education, giving people opportunities, and diversity and equality. And I wanted to assess the education platform from that viewpoint to see, well, these are the guys that can ultimately make the change, or at least are developing people that are moving into the world, and what are their viewpoints. And I tried to make an impact there, in terms of that, specialising in and around IT, which was what I'd learned from the telecoms background. And then come pandemic time, COVID, I got an opportunity to start this business, bespoke, from a good friend of mine, Joe Thompson, who I'd known since I was 11 at Man United. And yeah, Joe had been offered an opportunity by Nathan Steele and Lee, who are the principals at Bespoke. And I basically said, if Joe and his wife think it's a good idea and it's a good business, because they're quite business minded, that I'm in. So we went all in, and during the pandemic and stuff like that, we built a business. And then when the pandemic stopped, we started to look at what the growth opportunities were like, and here we are.
Nice, lovely story, mate. I love a success story, as I think most people do. The questions are just popping in my head as you're talking through that there. So, thanks for the insight first off, and for the honesty, in sort of where you've come from, and the struggles and the success that you've achieved so far.
Mm.
Off the top, there, I'm going to start from the top. So, obviously, you talked about your upbringing with your mum being a single parent, and how strong she was to develop you and obviously turn you into a stand-up guy. Let's be
Yeah.
honest, and a successful person later on in life. How much have you taken from your mum? How pivotal was the way she brought you up in the success that you've achieved further on in life?
Um, it's a lot. I don't think you appreciate it when you're growing and developing. I don't think you think you like your mum or your dad. Probably not till you become a parent that you realise that you are. you start to say the same things that your parents were saying to you 10 or 15 years ago. So yeah, I think that's when the realization come. I think that one of the underlying things that I always think about in sort of like my process so far and where I'm going is, and maybe the difference between some of the other people that you're competing with or you're working with or against is there is no safety net for me. And what I mean by that is that, you know, even to this day, if it all doesn't work, it's on me. I'm not good. Mum's not going to be able to bail me out. And I think that's always been the mentality. That's not to say that I don't need a moral support or a physical support, but I just know that the buck stops with me.
Yeah, there's nothing to fall back on. I totally get that. For a lot of people, everybody's different. Everybody's got different strengths. It's sink or swim in that aspect, isn't it? How do you find you lean towards the swim? So for people who are listening to this who are in a similar situation, you've got no fallback. For a lot of people, that'll sound daunting, won't it?
Yeah,
So you crack on and you know that you've got to make it happen, or you wobble because you know that you've got no safety net and things go downward from there. Sort of where's the guile and the strength come from to always look at the positive and always keep pushing forward with it?
I think you pretty much nailed it there. There's always a perspective. There's two sides of a coin. We choose which side we opt for. I always say every single day on Instagram, you're only a mindset away from having a good day, which is something that I live by. But in terms of the safety net and how that could ultimately strike fear into some people, I suppose, for me, it's just a case of we'll just show up, because every time I've just shown up, I've probably done a little bit better than I thought I was going to do, or I've done okay. Um, I always talk about fear as an acronym, and it's almost like false events appearing real. That's how I see fear, and I think when you
Mm.
show up and put your heart and soul into it and try your best, you're probably going to surprise yourself. So I tend not to think about the fact that I've got no safety net
Yeah,
and just show up and do my best. And I think evaluation or reflection is huge. So from every conversation, every situation I find myself in, I look at a little bit of reflection and try and take some transitional skills forward with me for the next opportunity.
love that, love that, love the acronym there as well. It's a good one. That I'll use that going forward. If you see that on the gram, I'll give you a shout out. Yeah. So just while we're still on the upbringing and the early stages, growing up in these inner city areas,
Mm.
totally relate to that. Very similar in where I grew up in Whalley Range, very close by in South Manchester. I know for myself, came from a very loving household. I've talked about this on the podcast previously. I've taken a hell of a lot away from my parents and only realized, like you've just said, when I got later on in life. But I think a lot of the things that I went through or experienced early on, living in those sort of inner city areas where a lot of things went on back in the day.
Mm.
When you get a little bit older, I think I've taken a hell of a lot away from that. And if I am successful to some degree, I think I owe a lot of it to the struggles that I've been through. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. Listen, I think as we're talking about parenthood a lot, but I think sometimes in life we always try and give our kids what we never had, and we did
Mm.
struggle. I know Whalley Range, you obviously know Moss Side and Broadfield Road and things like that, but sometimes I think it's important to focus on what we did have. We definitely had a grounding. We definitely become aspirational because we knew that there was more. We just didn't know how to get it at that stage. So I think we have to take a lot of strength from that. And there has to be an element of thoughtfulness to change that situation and allow yourself the opportunity for change. So yeah, I take a lot from my upbringing, both obviously being in Moss Side and then the move into to Wivenshaw. The reason why I do a lot about diversity and equality is because I understand that when I go into an interview or speak to someone in a certain situation, it's dead easy for me to talk about Man United, or it's dead easy for me to talk about this life insurance business. But I'm under no illusion that there's people that are as clever as me, as thoughtful as me, as caring as I am, that just haven't had the opportunities because of the geographical postcode and potentially forms of unconscious or subconscious bias. And they'll have barriers to entry that I might escape because of the perceived successes that I've had to date. So I'm very conscious that it's not about just getting away from that and progressing yourself. It's about making sure that other people know how to, or there's a sort of like a map of what you potentially need to do to give yourself an opportunity.
Perfect. Great message in there. Great message in there. I love it. So moving forward a little bit, talking about the football aspect. So I'm intrigued. Again, we're talking about getting through a lot of struggles there and how we've overcome things. Kind of aligns with the theme of the podcast to a degree.
Yeah,
So I think you played it down a little bit earlier on when you talked about you had a little bit of talent, did you say, or something like that when you were playing football earlier?
yeah,
If you're from Manchester and around this sort of age group, grew up in the 80s into the 90s like myself, then you know this gentleman. You know this gentleman had a skill set and was a very good footballer. So we won't play it down. How difficult did you find it moving on from football? Because you played for United for a number of years, didn't you? Until a good age
yeah.
at an elite level. And as there's, I think there's getting more and more press on it nowadays, isn't there, about the struggles of footballers moving away afterwards when they've not made it full-time professional or made it to that elite level and become Premiership footballers.
Yeah.
How much of a struggle was it? Was it hard for you at the time? Did you realise the magnitude of it?
I lived with the pressure from a young age. Didn't matter where I go, whether I'm playing football in the park with four mates or whether I've gone to a school tournament, or everyone knew I was the kid that played for Man United. So you live with that pressure. Even in the classroom, the teachers are watching you just to see how you act. And a coach said to me, just remember, Aaron, don't matter if you go in the shop with your mum or you're at school or you're here, you're representing Manchester United. And I study business. I've got a huge passion for it, and for me, there isn't many businesses bigger than Man United. You can talk about your Teslas, you can talk about your Apples, all those kind of organisations. They're only just now getting a brand that's the same size as Man United, and Man United have had that for years. So we live with the pressure. We did well. We did really, really well. But I do think that to make it in the Premier League, you're probably 0.01%. To make it in the Football League, you're probably the 1%. So there's 99% of people that are not going to make a career in the game, which means that there has to be a system or a mechanism to allow people to be successful. I've seen very good footballers come away from the game because they've not dealt with the pressure. I've seen very good footballers lose the love for the game, and not only for the game but for life, because they circled and centered life as football. And I've got a meeting tomorrow, interestingly, with a company called Life After Professional Sport, and it's really good to see that there's companies like Laps that are now looking at helping people to transition. But I think there's been a big, especially, I can only speak from my side of things. I left school in 2004, so from the late 90s to pretty much the last 2 or 3 years, there's a chasm, there's a big gap of people that fell out of the game that potentially haven't been supported well enough. Because they have got transitional skills, they are great team players, they have been competitive, they have been dedicated, they're focused, they're strategic, loads of things that will allow you to be successful in business, but they've potentially not been given the information that this might not work, and if it doesn't, what skills can you take forward? And also, if it doesn't, how do we support you to make sure that you utilize those skills to be successful in life? Because even if you're in the 0.1% or you're the 1%, your career's, if you're lucky, 20 years. If you go from 16, 17 and you play till you're 35, 36, you've done superb. What then? I'm seeing people that I grew up,
Yep.
that have played in the Premier League, that have played Champions League matches, that have won certain specific trophies, that are struggling to readjust to what we would call normal life, because they haven't got that routine, they haven't got that training program, they haven't got someone telling them what to do, what to wear, where to be. And they're skills that you learn by being in the real world and being independent. And sometimes those bubbles that we're put in to enable us to perform at our optimum, which is where we're trying to go to, doesn't allow you to see the realism of the outside world. So I think there's still a little bit to do.
Totally with you there. Totally with you there. So great content. My next question was going to be: do you think there's a lot of transferable skills in there? But you've answered that there to a T. Let's be completely honest. And there is still some work to do, but it's good to see that there's more being done. So people have got something to lean into in terms of that transition. But no, fantastic. So moving away from football, up to the modern day, let's get into your current situation.
Yeah.
You are a man who, as we talked about with the football and various other things, are very passionate about what you do, passionate about the education and development of yourself and others. We're actually in talks at the moment about transitioning my life insurance over to yourself,
Yeah.
which I'm sure will be happening any day now. It's clear when speaking to you that you're passionate about it. It's not just a job for you. It's not just a tick box exercise. You're not just a guy who's trying to get someone to sign up for the payday that comes off the back of it, so to speak. It's something you're really passionate about and something you want to support people with doing. Just tell us a bit more detail on the business, on what it is exactly you do and why people need it. Because if I'm being completely honest, being the person I am, where I was raised, the background I'm from, we've talked about areas and socio-economic status and that sort of thing, the culture you're in. This was never something I even considered life insurance until I went to get a mortgage and they said, right, you need life insurance. And at that stage, I'm like, what are you trying to say? I'm going to die. It's not, come on, I'm only
Yeah.
X amount of age, but there's a hell of a lot more to it. And when speaking to someone like yourself who's passionate about it and is really into the detail and not just wanting to sell you a product, that's when it really comes across. So just tell the listeners a little bit more about it and what it is that you're offering.
So we are Bespoke Health, like I say, one of the top brokers in the UK, and we are very passionate about protecting families. I'll talk about the passion first and foremost and where that comes from. I suppose it comes from two facets. The first one is obviously I grew up in a city area to a young parent. Had my something catastrophic happen to my mum when I was a kid, there was no safety net. Life insurance can be that safety net, and it can be put in place at a price that suits your personal needs, which means that if anything, if the worst does happen, there's a support system there. Because what would have happened, I probably would have had to go and live with my gran. My grandma was okay, but she was coming towards retirement, and my financial situation or the financial pressure it would have put on her, who knows where we would have ended up. And it's a simple conversation now because I'm in the position, but it wasn't a simple conversation then, and it still isn't something that everybody sort of like refers to and understands. I suppose the second point and passion is my granny herself. She passed away 5 years ago, lung cancer. Because of the age of my mum, my gran virtually raised me. You know how it is, Mark. It's one of those situations. So, and potentially that's the only. There's been two deaths, but there's only two or three deaths that I've experienced in my lifetime. I'm really, really fortunate, but it couldn't have happened to a person that I cared about more. To see her struggle during that situation was hard. To know that one of my best friends, Joe, got diagnosed with cancer at 23, then known him from 11, and he was playing professional football, was another mind-boggling experience. But the reason why I talked about transitional skills and opportunities is I try and be ready for the opportunity when the opportunity arises before you know that it's an opportunity. And the reason why Bespoke resonated with me, Mark, was because when my mum breaks the news to me that my gran's got cancer, and then my gran tells me that she's been diagnosed with X amount of months to live, nobody in my family said, has she got any critical illness cover? Has she got any life? And she didn't. So the house that I was almost raised in, well, definitely raised in, I've got a picture of me with a little pot belly in my shorts on when I was about 2 in the summer. At a house, we don't retain the house within that family. And I'll be dead honest with you, mate. I don't go down McGrand's Road. I drive all the way around. The only time I go is on Christmas Day, and I'll sit there for 10 or 15 minutes on my own when I'm going to pick my mum up. So that's where the passion comes from. The fact that if I'd had the information, advice, and guidance that I'm trying to provide now, we wouldn't have been in that situation. What I'd have done with the house, not sure. We might be renting it out. The money might be in the family. I don't know. But for us not to have that opportunity, and me not to be in the financial situation where I can say, we're not losing the house, I'll pay for this. It hurt. It's not nice. So that's where the passion comes from. I can only talk about my personal experiences, and I know that if anything happens to me, that my kids will be okay. Going back to what you alluded to earlier, I think within the community within Manchester, I don't think it's something that's talked about enough. We're in a generation now where we're moving into our mid to late 30s. You went and sat down with your mortgage advisor. None of us think we're going to die. But it's never about that. It's about being proactive, not rather than reactive, because when you're reacting in this kind of situation, it's probably too late.
Yep.
And we look at millennial spends. I talk about millennial spends a lot. Spending £5 on a Starbucks, we're going to Nando's and spending £30, £40, but we haven't got 15, 20, £25 to protect our mortgage and our kids, apparently. So for me, it's just about allowing people to understand those priorities. You obviously follow me on the internet. I'm not throwing it down people's face, or throat, should I say. But what I can hold my hands up and do is say that everyone that's in my social circle that knows me or knows someone I know should know that we do life insurance. And if I haven't physically had the conversation, which 95% of the people I have, they hope they should know that they can come to me and talk to me about it. So that's how I sleep at night, knowing that I've tried my best to speak to as many people as I can.
Love it. And you can see the passion coming through there again. Sorry for your loss and the struggles that you just talked about. First and foremost, it's refreshing though that you've been through that and you've experienced that, and at the very least, I know it's probably little consolation at this stage, but that you've been self-aware enough to take that away from it and to make sure that something like that can't happen again and put the right things in place. I think even at that stage when people are going through struggles in life, and it will come to all of us, we'll all have loss at times, we'll all have illness, we'll all have these things go on. Far too many people are going through it and still not coming out the back of it and thinking that was a wake-up call. Let me get the life insurance in place. Let me make sure the family's covered, etc. So, no, thank you for that. I think the penny drop moment there as well when you talk about the millennial spends, and we can go and buy a Nando's or we can spend a fiver on a coffee, but we can't spend such a little amount monthly to get that cover in place for something which may not happen, but just to have that cover and that peace of mind that one day it could happen is a no-brainer when you look at it like that.
Yeah.
So no, that's absolutely fantastic. In terms of the people who were taking this on,
Mm-hmm.
anyone specific in mind? Everybody should be covered, obviously. I
Yeah.
know anybody who's on social media, as most people are within our age group or at a younger age, even nowadays, you get the pop-ups nowadays, or it might be just me because I'm at a certain age, where it says 38 or 39 is the perfect time to get life insurance.
Yeah.
I don't know if the algorithm hacked me or what, and it knows my age.
Yeah.
But is that the perfect time, or are we just talking that everybody needs to be covered?
It's honestly a great question. You're going to see the comparison sites telling you that it's the perfect time to get life insurance. There isn't a perfect age, would be my answer. What I would say is life insurance is never going to be cheaper than it is today, because the way providers look at it is tomorrow you're a day older or a day closer to your death, without being too crude. I think people fall into demographics, and if I'm going to educate people on it, if you've got kids or you've got a mortgage, then you need life insurance, 100%. A mortgage is the biggest debt that any of us are ever going to have, and it's a milestone moment. You see people on the internet with the keys outside the front door, brilliant. But have we got the right protection in place now that you've took out a debt at that size? Critical illness, cancer's 1 in 2 once you get to a specific age. and everyone is accessible to cancer, as we've talked about with my good friend Joe getting it at 23 when he's a professional athlete, probably in the top 3-4% of fit people in the country, and he gets cancer of the immune system. So no one can escape it if it's coming. So pretty much everyone should have critical illness. And then if you're self-employed, you should potentially be looking at a form of income protection. Is pretty much only the public sector, police, firemen, doctors, nurses, teachers that they're getting sick pay, which will probably be around about 6 months full and 6 months half. 9 out of 10 jobs are paying minimal sick pay, or it's going straight to statutory sick pay, which is £99.35 a week, which is less than £400 a month. Which, if we're talking about millennial spends, you probably spend £400 at Aldi or Tesco or whichever supermarket you choose to. So it's probably not enough. So you can protect your income in a little bit the way that the furlough scheme works. You can protect between 60 to 75% of your income just by taking out some insurance. So they're the three main areas that we focus on. If you're categorizing them, parents, homeowners, pretty much everyone for critical illness, and then self-employed people or people without sick pay at work for income protection. So that's what we do. But we give a recommendation based on your current circumstances and your budget. We are budget driven, so we want to make it comfortable each month for people. But like I say, we spend a fiver on a coffee, we spend £30 in Nando's, we've got phone insurance in case we drop the phone on the floor and the screen cracks. We insure our car, we pay road tax, got home and contents insurance, but probably not
But
there.
we're not insuring our lives. It's crazy, isn't it, when you think about it like that? It really is. I just want to say at this stage as well, as I mentioned earlier on, we're going through the chat at the moment of switching my cover across. We've had that initial call before recording today's podcast, and I think there's maybe a little bit of a stigma there as well around people who don't want to be mithered or pestered, can't be bothered with the phone call. I know that's ludicrous when we're talking about the scale of what we're talking about in life insurance, but having the conversation with yourselves and the way you deal with things that bespoke is different. It's casual, it's comfortable. I wasn't being pressed. You guys, like you said earlier on, we're looking for something that's comfortable for the person who's taking it out rather than trying to get what you can out of individuals. So it is refreshing. I'll give you credit there, guys. It's definitely refreshing in terms of the process and going through the process to take it out.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Credit where credit's due, I tell you. So talking about the business on the whole now, fantastic. Love it. Love the passion you've got behind it. Where do you see it going in the future? What's your plan from here?
Oh, it's a great question. I got asked this. We're just developing a leadership program at Bespoke at the moment, and I got asked this by one of the potential leaders from Newcastle, and she said to me, "What's your plan?" So I said, "Do you want me to be honest?" She said, "Yeah." So I said, "I set myself what we call big, hairy, audacious targets, goals." And if anyone's read the High Performance book, that's where that's from. I see this business, me, Nathan, and Lee taking this business to America.
Nice.
Potentially, maybe have to value insurance a little bit more because there's no NHS. If they're really, really ill and they haven't got the finances, they're not getting the treatment. But we grow up on films of people in New York and Wall Street and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I want to go and I want to take it and challenge the wolves, the big guys in New York. But before that, we have to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Talking about the processes that you talked about before, giving people opportunities here and now, and allowing people to understand exactly why insurance is important. Keep to our core values, which we have, and then go from there. But my big target would be to take it to America in the next 5 to 7 years. That's where I want to be.
Nice vision. Nice vision for the future there. Clear as well. It was like it's written in stone. There was no hesitation there.
It's
So
we talk about the Hansel and Gretel thing. It's already happened, Mark. I'm just following the trails that we've.
yeah, I love that. I love that. So you've got the fundamentals in place. Love it. In the meantime, we're doing whatever we've got to do to make sure everything, the foundations are laid, and we can progress forward from there. You talked a little bit earlier on about bringing people into the business. So
Yeah.
for people who are passionate about it the same way you are, or want a chunk of the pie with the spoke, so to speak, do you want to tell us a little bit more about how people can get involved potentially?
So the company's growing, growing at a huge rate. We've got 97 advisors at the moment, and
Mm,
we're recruiting heavily because we want to speak to as many families as we can. And as you know, we almost gain those conversations based on known trust. I know you, and know a few people that you know, and that's why we have those conversations, and that's why it can be so laid back. So we're growing as an organisation. Um, and we're offering everyone the opportunity. I look at, I think there's a strike today for teachers.
yeah,
Uh, there's a teacher strike today. So I think there's a lot of unhappy teachers. I think there's a lot of unhappy people in the rail industry. It was only 2 or 3 years ago that we stood outside on a Thursday night clapping for the NHS, who've done a fantastic job. But a few people that have been in and out of hospital since then have said that it appears that people are stressed and struggling, and we're also in an economic climate where the gas and electricity bills have gone through the roof, and people are now looking at a job that they previously thought was okay, and they're thinking it's not enough. We're not doing enough. So we're offering people an opportunity, whether that be part time, full time, or in your own time. We're paying for people's qualifications in terms of we're putting them through the process to become an FCA regulated protection advisor, and we're giving people an opportunity. It's like I said at the outset, I didn't think I was going to be in insurance and in protection 10 years ago. So as long as someone's got the acumen and has our core values, we're giving everyone an opportunity to come in and transition into financial services with a company where there's no limits. I think what's brilliant about the organisation, what Lee and Nathan have created, is that they want people to build a business within a business. So how many people within my network can I give an opportunity to? How many people can the next person give an opportunity to? And that's all it's about, because that's what I was given, that's what Joe was given, and that's what the other 15 advisors that we've got in Manchester now were given. And what you make of that opportunity is completely up to you, but we're doing it with the core values and protecting families.
Absolutely love it. Love it. There, you can tell that the culture's there. You can tell the passion's there across the board. It sounds like the fundamentals of a good, strong, solid business. The hearts are in the right place. It sounds really exciting. Absolutely buzzing for you guys over there. And I can only imagine what the growth's going to be like over the coming years. So, moving a little bit away from the business now, talk us through how you juggle. So, a big thing that I've noticed that the further and further I get on in life, maybe I'm just getting a little bit old and my energy is not the same as it was. I've got two kids, amazing family, missus. Things are going well. I'm spinning a few plates. I run the podcast. I work full time. I coach as a side business. One of my biggest struggles at times is finding that synergy. Is finding how to work, how to find time for work, time for play, time to bring my two kids up, time to put dinner on the table at tea time, still have some quality time with the missus. It's a struggle. Being in the position you're in, growing such a successful business, but a business that it sounds like is in the early stages of some massive growth. How do you find time to do that alongside being a family man, looking after the kids, getting yourself to the gym, going on the runs that I know you're running all the time and covering this mileage? Do you have a
Yeah.
method in place, or is it all very go with the flow?
No, I'm almost a prisoner of routine. I'm big on habits. I've got a lot of non-negotiables that I factor into every single day. I don't want to be. I don't need to be an advocate of the 5 a.m. club, but that's what time I get up at. And my theory behind that is not because that's what appears successful people do, but it's because between the hours of maybe, let's say, I probably go to bed at 9:30, 10, probably showing my age again, go bed early. But if I was staying up till 12, what would I be doing? I'd be probably watching Netflix or whatever. So I just choose to sort of like turn my day on its head, and I get up earlier. I'll stretch. I'll do a little bit of meditation. I'll go for the run that you'll see me go on, and then I try and get into the office for 8. I did a post today on Copenhagen. A friend of mine used to live over there a few years ago, and I was astounded by their quality of life. Considering it's not that far away from England, and what the Copenhagen effect is that they work between the hours of 10 and 3. One, so that the people can drop the kids off to school and have that family time, and two, there's a theory that after the hours of 3 till 5, the productivity drops dramatically because people are clock watching, waiting to sort of like clock off almost. So within this role, we give people autonomy. We want people to go and take the kids to school. We want them to have a balanced life as much as they can. And I'll have to hold my hands up, Mark. That's not necessarily always me. I'm someone who really enjoys working, putting in the hours. But we have to give our people the freedom to go and do the things that really matter to them, which is being in and around the kids, not miss a play, not miss a parents' evening, get themselves to football. We've got a couple of advisors that are still playing in the football league at the moment, who are protecting families in the evening. I've got a pilot that works for us. We've got school teachers. So we give people flexibility to earn around the current job if they want to stay there, or to sort of like identify and find a working life that suits their family. So yeah, that's how we go. I haven't quite mastered it myself. I'm not going to sit here and say that. Um, but yeah, for anyone that's coming in wanting a part-time opportunity or an opportunity to mould their own working hours, we're able to do that based on this Copenhagen effect that we're working on.
You're gonna have people banging your door down now. They'll be lining up. They'll be lining up. So much of what you've just said there resonates. I've been employed for many, many years now, as well as self-employed a little bit as a personal trainer, and on the side now as a development coach. But I think it goes a long, long way when there's a people first aspect to any business. When you feel valued, when you feel like what you need to do to take care of business, whether that be at home, personal life, taking care of the kids, as you've just said there, doing the school runs, the little things. If you understood and you get that bit of leeway to get them things done, for my money, you give more back. You feel more value, so you give more back. The input between that 10 and 3, if you just put it there, is going to be a much higher output, and you're going to want to work for your employer, so to speak. So I really like that. I might be signing up myself at this stage. I'll have to ask you, where do I
I
sign
think
on the dotted line?
I think reading a good book at the moment by Ken Blanchard, and it talks about servant leadership. They don't work for me. I work for them. Like, how can I make sure that your working life is as best as it possibly can be, but at the same time we can protect as many families as you've got the ability to protect. But the most important family is the one that you've got at home. So yeah, we're trying to make sure that that the people are happy, because happy people perform better. But we've got some advisors who sort of like pride themselves on going on 5 or 6 holidays a year. They don't tell anyone that they're going away. They just work the diary out so that whilst they're away, that they've got business to come back to almost. So yeah, again, you're building a business within a business, and there's a training structure. There's helping hands, there's experience. There's people that have won national awards that are willing to help you. You've got people there to guide you, and sort of so you can avoid the pitfalls or the holes that people before you fell into. But ultimately, it's your business, and we're just all in the business of trying to protect as many families as we possibly can.
Love it. Love it. Love it. Honestly, fantastic work. Kudos on what you're doing over there, mate. It sounds absolutely fantastic. And I hope the future plans come off. As I said, we've been in contact already, so we will certainly get that deal done anytime now amongst these busy schedules. Right, as we move away a little bit from the business talk, we'll just wrap things up with a couple of questions which I ask through each episode. The reason why I ask these questions is to see if there's any pattern, because they say success leaves clues. So the first one is, talk us through your morning routine.
Oof. Yeah, it's good. So what I would do in the morning, Mark, would be I'd wake up at 5. I'd stretch, because I think that stretching and meditation are the key to staying healthy. We don't value our health until it's not there anymore. Then I'll go for a run, which ultimately is I've got like a routine of habit stacking, and what that is finding two things that I can do at the same time. So I'll never listen to the radio in the car. I'll always listen to an audio book, and I do the same when I'm running. So I'm listening to a book whilst running in the morning. Try and get 4 or 5 miles done. I'll come home, spend a little bit of time with the family in the morning, and then I'll try and get to the office for 8 o'clock. From there, I have a little bit of an admin window where from sort of like 8 till 11, I won't do any client appointments, client facing appointments. I'll focus on putting the policies in place that I've spoken to the previous day. So I allocate time for that, and then from there on, 11 onwards, I just get on with my day, whatever's in my diary. I In terms of sort of like eating and stuff. Every morning I have a smoothie, which is always the same thing: sea moss, bananas, frozen berries, oat
Okay.
water. But I won't have that till probably about 10, 11.
Right.
Yeah. And then just crack on with the day and try and spend a little bit of time with the family in the evening. I had a period of time last year where I was probably working too late most nights. So try and shut off from physically working before 7,
Yeah.
and then I try and shut off from my phone at about 9, half 9, so that I can be asleep for 10.
Wind down. Yeah.
Yeah, and I've got a Whoop band on here. Love Whoop, by the way. So I just try and track my sleep and my recovery as much as I possibly can. That's pretty much it.
Nice, nice. You've got a routine in place there. That's a successful routine. That's almost as if it's taken out of a book. You know, you could write a book on that and sell it. You certainly
It's
could.
I always say every day on Instagram, don't I, that there's no cons to consistency. So I just try and be as consistent as I
Yeah.
can every single day. So if you rang me at 9 o'clock and said, "How's your morning gone?" Or "How's your day going?" I'd be like, "I've had a great day. I've meditated. I've stretched. I've been for a run.
Yeah.
Listened to a book. I've had my smoothie. I'm all right." Uh, Everything from there is a bonus as long as you win your morning.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm an advocate for a lot of the same things up until recently, as anyone who listens to the podcast will have heard me probably moaning a little bit. Or that's the way it might come across, around the lack of sleep with having my youngest so young, just turned 1. It's actually on the rise now. We're getting a bit of sleep. So if you can't tell, I'm glowing. Do you know what I mean? It's all taking off again. But I'm someone who, for years, similar to yourself, I was woke up 5, half 5, routine in place, would always train first thing in the morning, whether at the gym or a run, with Pure Gym being 24/7. I intermittent fast, so wouldn't have anything to eat until 11, 12 o'clock. Same thing, audio books while I'm training. I tried to hang on to that for dear life. The lack of sleep, which at times was 3 to 4 hours a night with new babies, and people understand that with having kids,
Yeah.
it had me off at one stage, and it fell by the wayside. So at the moment, I'm far from that. It's all gone. It's all gone down the pan. I am going somewhere with this. When you get these setbacks or something were to happen that were to throw your routine,
Mm.
what's your response like? Do you beat yourself up about it? Will you routine break down for a period, or you snap? Are you straight back into routine and off we go?
Um, I live by sayings. So I always say never miss twice. Um, so if my routine breaks down, sometimes it does, and um, sometimes it can be anything. It can be lack of sleep. It could be sometimes a hangover if you've been out for your drinks or whatnot. Just get back on the horse as soon as you can, and just show up again. That session on that Monday morning, if you've been out on Saturday night, might not be as good as it would have been if you'd not been out. But the fact that you've been there and that you got back into your routine ASAP is always the best way to do it. So I'm a creature of habits. I try and stick to the routines as best as I can. In the last 3 or 4 years, I've been relatively successful. Prior to that, yeah, there were times where there were big dips and big lulls, but ultimately, you feel yourself getting into that lull, and you start to think, I didn't used to feel like this, and it's not until you get yourself back into that routine and start eating a little bit better and hydrating that you realise how good you feel. And I think health's super important, and I try and stay as in tune with my body as I possibly can at all times. And if you do, your body will give you signs when you need to rest, and when you can up it. But I use the Whoop a lot to tell me as well.
There you go. There you go. Right, next up, what percentage of the time are you on it? So when I say on it, I think this is going to be a high percentage with you personally. When I say on it, I'm talking about, we talk about it, the self-help books and that sort of thing. Eat That Frog being one of them. The billionaire, Dan Pena, he's an advocate of the same thing, saying that if you're on it, then whatever you are doing is contributing to your future goals, whether personal or professional. You're not on it if whatever you're doing is not contributing towards future goals or greater good. What percentage of the time would you say off top you are on it?
Um, at the moment, probably more often than not. I struggle to shut off at times from sort of like thinking. That's why I'm really focusing on the sleep. I sleep well, but you can always sleep better. Uh,
Mm.
if I had to put a number on it, probably 75% of the time. Just purely because I've got a routine and habits that we call them little bricks, and little bricks build big castles. And by doing those non-negotiables on a day to day, I always think I'm contributing to getting the business to New York, or getting the number of staff that we want to have by the end of the year, or protecting those number of families. So I'm always working towards those goals in one way, shape, or form. I said it before. I am a prisoner of routine. So majority of the time, but you have to let your hair down. You have to have the time with the family. You have to find ways to relax. And running's probably that for me as well.
Mhm.
It's just me and the roads 9 times out of 10. So, and an audio book. So yeah, I sometimes find freedom in the runs.
Yeah, I hear you there. I've not really started running until the past recent years, probably the last 3 to 4 years, putting some mileage in, and the mental health that comes with it. Just that, yeah, it is that time away and that time to yourself, especially early doors when it's nice and quiet and it's only you out there. So moving on, last one, you get the chance to sit down to dinner with three people, dead or alive, past or present, with an aim to make your future from this point forward as successful as possible. Who are you three people?
Oh, it's a great question. It's a really good question. Oh, I'd go. I'd go Jordan B. Peterson. Uh,
Nice, love it,
yeah,
love it.
go Jordan B. Peterson. I would go Jordan B. Peterson. Muhammad Ali.
Nice. Not
Uh,
had Muhammad Ali yet. I like that.
yeah, so go Muhammad Ali, Jordan B. Peterson, and then I will go Patrick Bet David, who is he owns a company called PHP, which is like one of the biggest insurance companies in America.
Right, yeah, yeah. Knowing well, valuetainment and all that.
Yeah,
Yeah, top guy.
and yeah, so
Yeah,
I'd go Patrick Bet David, Jordan B. Peterson, and Muhammad Ali.
good picks, good picks. And for anybody who's listening to this and doesn't know who them people are, or not consuming the content, or not following them on social media, go and get it done. They will add value to your life.
Yeah.
Spot on, love it. Right, and that is us wrapped. Thank you so much. Honestly, once again, really appreciate you joining us. Some amazing content there. Thanks for sharing your story. Thanks for the honesty and thanks for the insight into your business and what it is you're doing and how that can benefit the listeners as well. So, yeah, been absolutely top. Just before we wrap it, do you want to just tell the listeners where we can find you? Social handles, website, etc.
Yeah, so the social handles, Instagram is A8Burns87. Soul's Twitter. Soul is TikTok. And LinkedIn, you'll find me on as Aaron Burns, and as well as Facebook. The website's coming very, very soon. Yeah, that's where you'll find me.
Perfect. Nice one, Aaron. Appreciate your time.
That's it. Thank you.
Take care.